20 years ago, I mean, I was a big fan of your music. If I were to buy your music, I would have gone to Tower Records and I would have bought, you know, obviously an LP, an album LP. Nowadays, you just download it, right? Right online. How do you feel about that?
The model is changing, obviously, and I don't think the model we have at the moment is necessarily the one that's going to, you know, be there in 5 or 10 years. We need something that's a little more equitable for musicians. I think musicians need to be paid for their work. It's fine for me, you know.
Well, you've made your money,
I've
right?
made my money. I'm well off. But young artists beginning their career, the idea of making a living out of this business is tough. I think the streaming model is a good one, but we also need to be paid.
Well, you are on the streaming services, so you haven't opted out of those. So in some ways, do you support these models?
In a way, I think they're evolving. I was interested in Taylor Swift's stand because I thought it was a brave stand, and she also brought it into, you know, public debate. So it was good. People need to talk about this. What is good for music? You know, music is important to our society, and it mustn't die out, because it's a vibrant part of society.
So you agreed with her move then?
I thought it was good to get the debate out.
Okay.
You know, whether she goes back to Spotify or not is up to her. But I think to raise the debate was a good move.
Well, it's interesting because when that happened, that definitely created some seismic changes. And
well, a lot of people have no idea that there's any issue.
Right.
But musicians need to be paid.
Well, on the other side, I would hear from people who said, well, why should artists feel like that they have any right to be making tons and tons of money like they have in the past?
It's not tons and tons of money, it's making a living. You know, in this industry you can make a killing, but it's hard to make a living.
So do you think more artists should push back, like Taylor Swift?
I think the streaming companies have got the idea now, and they're working as best they can, I suppose, to make it better. But it's evolving. You know, every day is different, and I'm intrigued by where it's going. I'm glad I'm not starting out now in the music industry. That would be a tough one.
Do you think you'd be able to make as much money as you have if you started out now today?
No. I have no guilt about making extravagant amounts of money. I did that at the time, but I worked hard for it. I worked extremely hard. I'm still working hard.
Right.
But I enjoyed it.
And you're still out there taking risks, right?
I'm still out there taking risks.
The reason why I mention this also is because, you know, Paul McCartney, the Beatles, Peter Gabriel, for instance, some of your peers have opted not to allow their catalogs to be streamed on these services. Is there at some point maybe a responsibility of older artists or more established artists to take stands like that and say, you know what, we object to this?
Well, I mean, I respect them for doing that. As again, I think they've raised the debate, but I'm kind of waiting. I can see it moving the whole time. You know, I'm just intrigued by where it's going. I don't feel a need to jump ship at the moment. Another ship metaphor.
I was going to say. What do you think of the new artists today? I mean, not just the Taylor Swifts, but you've made comments about Justin Bieber.
No, I haven't. Have I? I mean, you know, there's great music out there. There always will be.
Well, this is what you said.
It needs to be sponsored. What did I say about Justin?
So this is what you said about Justin Bieber. I saw this in an article a few years ago. Or actually, it was just last year. This was when Bieber was imploding. I mean, you read all the headlines on this. You said, quote, just try and enjoy it, because that truly explosive bit doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
You're talking about for young artists, right?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate because I was in my mid-20s, 26 or 27, when I became successful. And before that, I held a job then. I was a school teacher. I paid taxes. I was a parent. I had a mortgage. And so I had a real life before I had this crazy other celebrity life, which allowed me to be objective about it and not totally carried away by it. I feel sad sometimes when people leave school, they have a hit on X Factor, and then suddenly they're vaulted into this crazy world without any kind of thing to compare it to. I don't know how you stay sane in that, because the pressures are enormous. And unless you've had some grounding in real life, it must be very difficult to survive psychologically.
Well, should the music industry be more responsible towards that? Is there anything that can be done on something like that?
I don't think entirely blame the music industry. The media, too, are responsible. And society generally, you know, we vault people into these positions that are difficult to sustain. And, you know, when you're a young person, you suddenly become famous and successful, you think you're entitled to that forever. And that sense of entitlement doesn't help.
You never let that get to your head?
No, I didn't, because I had a real life before. And that may not be possible in this new era, but I'm glad of it. You know, I'm glad of that time.
Well, nowadays, I mean, it's, as you say, people become musicians or rock stars or celebrities on YouTube or you know, various other sites, or they're on these reality shows like The X Factor or The Voice. I mean, first of all, would you ever join any of those programs?
I haven't been invited to, no.
No? And if you were invited?
No one's invited me, so I don't know. But, you know, I learned my trade, I call it the shop floor, of, you know, taking a band and the equipment to Poughkeepsie, a little club in Poughkeepsie or in Syracuse, and going from club to club, playing to largely empty rooms, and building an audience, building resilience, a toughness, that network doesn't exist anymore. So the only way to be successful now are these routes, but they're short term and a shortcut. And I preferred it the way we did it, as tough as it was.
A lot of these artists today, I think about a Jay-Z, for instance, right? They have a brand. There's clothing, there's fragrances, there's, in Jay-Z's case, a sports agency now. I mean, when you look at that, are you pretty impressed by how business savvy some of these artists are?
I'm impressed by it. I don't necessarily want to emulate it. You know, I'm a musician. I'm not a businessman. I'm really not. I couldn't do that. I don't have that skill set. I sing.
You more than sing, you create your music. Talk to me about the process of how you now create music and write songs versus 20 years ago.
You know, one of the things that attracted me to writing a Broadway show was that there are very few places you can present a new body of songs in the sequence you want them heard. People now listen to playlists. They don't listen to albums.
More ahead.
I'm gorgeous.
How vanity keeps this rock legend at the top of his game.
Well, what is it like at 63 versus 33?
Much more fun.